So,
Okay, gentlemen, it's 1:30.
it is 1:30. So with that, welcome to the Board of County Commissioners workshop for January 24th, 2022. And would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, first thing on our agenda, we have a presentation from Chief Balfour from the Cortez Fire Protection District. And Chief Balfour.
Thank you, sir.
Check. Good afternoon, all. How are we doing?
Great.
Good.
Great so far.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here today to give you a brief presentation on kind of where we're at with the Cortez Fire Protection District, funding-wise, call volume-wise, and the need for us to try and develop alternative source of funding besides the mill levy off property tax, because we're kind of running into a wall right now. But and I've got a couple other handouts here that I'll present to you as well once we get going. Next slide, please. So as we all know, the Cortez Fire District, or Cortez Volunteer Fire Department, was established in around 1886. In 1910, it was formally recognized by the city of Cortez and adopted under the city codes and ordinances to become a volunteer fire department and protect the city of Cortez. For many years, they protected Cortez, and then they started to reach out into the rural areas of the county to provide that fire and rescue protection as we know it back then. In 1886, the district was formed, and by the voters on June 25th, 1986, the voters of the fire district, which covers 162 square miles, approved the formation of the district, and by virtue of the court decree and service plan that was established back then as well. And in 2008, it became a combination fire department, and the funds were received, or have been since 1986, received by through property tax, through a mill levy on property tax for the private property within the district. And you can see where calls for service have gone from 2000 up till 2021. Significant increase from 2019 to 2021. And I think if we do the math, that's somewhere around 36, 38%, right in that neighborhood, which is ironically about what our overlapping call volume is today, is about 36, roughly around 36%. Next slide, please. And with this, we have 2 Type 1 structural engines. We have 3 Type 6 brush trucks, a Type 3 engine, a couple water tenders, a ladder truck, a light rescue. We have a firefighting SUV and a rescue, or SUV, UTV, and a rescue and firefighting UTV. And as you can see, all but 4 of the apparatus are well beyond the service life per national standards. Next slide. So the upper left is our brush truck, or Type 6, 1997. Upper right is a 98 E1 engine, and lower left is our 94 ladder truck, 75 foot, and then lower right is a 1991 tender. All these trucks are currently in service and operating today, and operate typically weekly. The ladder truck and the tender are operating a couple times a week, and the engine is operating probably every couple weeks. Obviously, the brush truck this time of year is in service, but we're doing repairs and maintenance on it, and it'll start picking up its duty here in the next couple months. Next slide, please. Pardon me, back that up one. I apologize. I want to make a quick note on that. You can see the cost of the Type 1 engine, $650,000. We actually verified this last week because we're actually looking at a replacing our current engine, the KME, that is a 2013. We'll pay it off. We pay about $30,000 a year on it because we're able to make a substantial down payment. And it'll pay off in 2023. So we're looking at opportunities to go into a lease purchase on a new engine. But from probably the big five manufacturers of trucks, $650,000 to $700,000 for an engine. $1 million is actually probably low for a ladder truck right now. They said you probably, if you're not budgeting 1.2, then you're probably gonna be a little bit under. Of course, tender, which is what we're seeing in the lower right corner, $300,000, and a brush truck, a couple hundred. You could probably get one built for $150,000, but it'd be bare bones. Next slide. What type of calls do we respond to? Fire calls, EMS calls, hazmat, tech rescue, public service, where we go install smoke detectors, your dog's locked in the car at one of the stores, or you leave your kids locked in the car, we'll go unlock the car for you. Assist other agencies. We respond with law enforcement, EMS, and other fire departments, mutual aid in the county, as well as to Mesa Verde, Ute Mountain Ute Reservation, and BLM and Forest Service property. Next slide. Other things that we do at the fire department, provide CPR, which Chief Warden has been conducting all of the CPR and first aid training the past 2 years. We do monthly blood pressure checks at the station and other areas around our district. We provide fire safety education to students of pre-K up through the 5th grade. We also do smoke detector checks and installations. We conduct fire extinguisher classes for businesses in the community, assist with controlled burns, and then as you see the green and white signs around town, the address signs, we make those right at the fire station as well. After a survey that we completed, and we'll see another slide here in a moment that will give additional information on that, we conducted a survey of combination fire departments throughout the state of Colorado and determined that our firefighters are some of the busiest in the state, averaging 181 calls per firefighter per year. And that's actually a little bit low. These are all 2020 statistics as well, not 2021. But however, we start at minimum wage, which fortunately went up to $12.52, and so we have to cut something. So we typically cut capital money to meet the requirements to move up to minimum wage for firefighters. And so with wages, benefits, insurance, etc., counts for about 85% of our budget, or 1.4 million. And then the additional money that left over goes to pay for fuel and maintenance of the apparatus facilities, goes for training, required testing of elevators, fire pumps, hose, ladders, etc. Next. And then next slide will show where the similar departments are at. Cortez, the first column, and then we receive information from departments from the Front Range or south side of Denver, northeast Colorado, western Colorado, eastern, so on and so forth. And as we can see, when we look at the annual budget, where we're at 1.55 in 2021, and then the next closest one will be 800,000, but of course their call volume was 1,300, and their firefighters are starting at $45,000 a year, and they have a 2.5 mile, 2.5 mile coverage area, so it's pretty small. And then we've got another department in central Colorado that is kind of close to us with full-time personnel and where we're starting our firefighters at. But their coverage area again is around 17 square miles. So when you look at all that, it shows that obviously cost per call, we're definitely the best value at $570 per call, but that can be misleading and really kind of be detrimental for the citizens of our fire district and of the community, because the fact is being best value doesn't necessarily mean that we're providing the service that we need to for the people that are our residents and visitors, because quite frankly we're understaffed, our folks are underpaid, and we're waiting for the next Marshall fire to occur in the Cortez Fire Protection District, because May 7th of last year, when the Hawkins fire broke out, we had winds that were upwards of 25 mile per hour gusts, and we had 5 people on duty that day. Obviously, we got mutual aid from our neighboring fire districts, the Forest Service, BLM. We called, they came, because they knew that the situation that was at hand with the number of acres that we'd told them that we'd already burned, the fact that we were having a wind event, and that fortunately in the late afternoon that wind subsided and kept it from burning up into the Hawkins Preserve and into the homes that were along Apple, Colfax, Baker, South Cedar, etc. Next slide, please. So what we would like to do, we would like to meet industry standards for equipment, gear, and apparatus replacement. Currently, the most important things as far as SCBA and turnouts, we meet industry standard. Most of our folks have a second set of turnouts to change into after every fire so they can wash theirs and get the carcinogens, all of the toxic gases and debris off of them, and not put them on and wear them for another call where it's going to soak into their skin and possibly cause cancer. Our real pitfall is our apparatus replacement, and as you saw moments ago, it's not cheap. Right now, today, to replace those 4 trucks that we saw up there, probably right around $4 million, maybe just slightly under, to replace those 4 trucks that are over 20 years of age. And they're starting to show their wear and tear. We do a lot of maintenance on them. We provide maintenance, preventive maintenance. We change the oil as needed or recommended. They're getting a minimum of 1 oil change a year, even though they're only, maybe 1,000 miles going on them. It's about the hours, though, that are going on the motor. So most of our trucks get an oil change twice a year, some of them 3 times. We would like to be able to recruit and retain firefighters. It's difficult to recruit when we're offering $12.52 starting wage to be a firefighter, EMT, hazmat operations, technical rescue operations, etc. A lot of requirements there. It's not just firefighting anymore. We would like to improve our ability to be progressive and professional service to our community, continue to train our employees to a higher level than the minimum. We do meet the minimums annually with our training, but we'd also like to see more hazmat technicians, more technical rescue technicians. But quite frankly, we just can't afford to do that right now because of the costs for the initial training and then the recurring annual training that goes with that, as well as some of the equipment that would be required. Next slide, thank you. With your help, Cortez Fire District is in need of critical additional funding. Therefore, we would like you to consider allocating a percentage of any proposed county sales tax for a public safety agency, which would be a public safety sales tax within Montezuma County. Historically, the fire districts in our area have increased funding by raising the mill levy, which we attempted to do in 2019, and we were not successful with that. For our property owners within the districts, the problem with this is that it puts all the financial burden on the property owners in the district, not a numerous amount of people that access our services that are here temporarily, whether they're a tourist or whether they're here for temporary employment or whatever that might be. Maybe summer, maybe snowbirding or whatever, for the summer. Montezuma County is unique because we have a large tourism attractions and in the area, and a sales tax would put the financial burden on everyone who comes to and spends money in Montezuma County, not just the property owners. An example of these are the visitors of over 500,000 people that visit Mesa Verde on an annual basis. I believe that number has changed. I heard recently about 650 to 700,000, I think, is what one of the recent numbers I'd heard. Next slide, sir. I do have some handout material for you. Chief Borden can hand it. Actually, Chief, here you go. There's one for all 4 of them up there. Gives a breakdown if we were to start at a 1.5 million for all the fire districts, what that would look like as far as a breakdown. As we can see, that the Cortez Fire District runs just shy of 75% of the total fire calls in the county. Per the 5 fire districts, Dolores is second, Mancos third, Lewis Ariel the fourth, and Pleasant View fifth. And so total calls for all the fire districts is 4,409. And as you see, Cortez is at 3,284. That takes into account some other anomalies that go in there. We do have some runs that were initially dispatched for that were actually for a adjacent fire district, or if Chief Borden or I happened to see someone, so maybe somebody that was running from the police, or maybe somebody that was an impaired driver or something like that. If we call that in, that could be coded up as a fire district initiated call as well. So that's why when you saw the 3174 earlier, that's our total run number call volume. That's ones that we have done reports for. And this additional 110 that you see is for some ancillary type calls that we don't do a report for, where it's just more of an information type of transfer on the radio.
Okay.
That's all I have for my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd love to hear them, but I just wanted to kind of, if you will, get our foot in the door with you on this sooner than later, and see if there was an opportunity for future conversations or any possibilities in the future. But I do appreciate this time with you today, and I didn't want to take up a lot of time because I know you're busy and you've got a lot of other things to work on.
Okay. I did check with the attorney just to make sure that there's no legal implication that we're crossing the line of anything with special districts, obviously, because we follow all of the statutes and to make sure that we're in line with the statutes, that we don't cross over anything. So with that, Ian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so before I get started today, thank you guys for what you do. Obviously, it's a huge help to the community, and if my house is ever on fire, I'll certainly make the call. So in researching this issue, there is statutory authority in Colorado that allows for a public safety tax, and that tax could be placed onto the ballot, and that could be used to benefit public safety agencies, including fire protection districts. So that is an option on the table for you. That's a different statute than the statute that allows us to levy a general sales tax. So we can get on the ballot with our general sales tax, and then a public safety tax is a little bit different, at least in the statutory provision that governs it. Now, the issue we're going to run into if we get onto the ballot and we try to put a combined public safety tax and a just general sales tax, which is kind of what we've contemplated doing, the general sales tax. But now if we add this public safety element into it, we're getting into the realm of getting outside the single single question rule, and so single subject ballot question. So in Colorado, you can only have a single question on the ballot, and case law is pretty clear when they look at what constitutes a single subject for purposes of ballot question. If a question has a couple different things that would possibly lead a voter to vote yes who would normally vote no. In other words, if we levy a general sales tax and then we combine the fire protection district into that sales tax, we're running real close to that line of being outside that single subject ballot question. There's certainly there would be some opportunities to try to craft a ballot question that maybe we could skirt that line, but it would be difficult. If we put that public safety question combined with the regular general sales tax, I wouldn't feel super comfortable with that. So really what that leaves you with is a couple different options to address this issue if you want to. Certainly we can levy or place our sales tax question on the ballot, and then we could look at entering into some sort of an intergovernmental agreement with a fire protection district or other public safety entity to give a portion of that money. That would be one option you could look at. Another option you certainly could look at would be to pass a resolution asking for a public safety tax to be placed on the ballot. But obviously the problem with that is then you're looking at two different ballot questions, and so that's going to be the challenge here. I think that if you stick the public safety tax onto the general sales tax, you're running right outside sort of the legal guidelines.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to establish, first of all, if we're going to do it. Secondly, we have to choose between a PSST or a general sales tax.
Right.
Yep. And here's the thing though. If you do a general sales tax, if you decide to go that route, part of the education for that sales tax initiative could conceivably be that some of those funds would be dedicated to say a fire protection district. Now we couldn't necessarily do that in the ballot question itself, but we can do that through an intergovernmental agreement. So just because we don't go the route of a public safety tax, that doesn't necessarily mean that through other means, IGA specifically, we couldn't get money to say the fire protection district. Does that make sense?
I've got a question, Ian. This is purely conjecture, but originally when they did the land use code update 20 years ago, they said the county needed a minimum of 1% sales tax to be split 50-50 between public safety and road and bridge. Does the work, or does at least a portion of the work the road and bridge does, constitute public safety, especially when we're thinking of snow removal and such?
Well, so a road and bridge department is not one of the entities that's listed under the public safety tax
So
statute.
when I reached out to Commissioner Hanson, who is from Montrose County, who was probably the last county or the most recent to even think about this, she sent me a list, and Road and Bridge is not
Yep.
on that at all either, because of it's a PSST, a public safety sales tax. So that Road and Bridge was
Yep.
out of that portion of it. So if it's a general, and what you're talking about is a comprehensive plan, when that was developed, that's what the recommendation was at that point in time. But it was split between the two, and with that, a general sales tax, that could be done. But then it's not public safety. One of our biggest things that we're wrestling with is the sheriff's department and the jail. The jail's at capacity right now, or we're actually a lot of days over capacity, and the DOC, I mean, we don't have any place, we don't have a place for anybody to go with, which is, probably the biggest reason that we're looking at this, and just for the drugs that are coming in and out of this county. I mean, the same situation. They're understaffed, they're undergunned, they're under trained as far as, I mean, we're talking military training almost to what they're having to combat. It's not just your everyday law enforcement training. So I think looking at what Montrose did, the information that Commissioner Hanson has sent to me, I mean, our roads are going to be the most expensive thing in the world forever and ongoing, and oil prices keep going up. That's not going down. But we can move within the mill levy.
That's right. If we did this as a
Of
public
what?
safety tax, then we could adjust our mills accordingly to deal with other general government provisions, assuming it was successful.
So I'm almost, and this will obviously take some more conversation, but I think the PSST might be specifically for us looking at the sheriff's department and everything that goes with it, which again is then the DA, the sheriff, everything that has to, once you catch them, you put them away, you incarcerate them, the whole, it's a lot bigger picture than just picking up somebody on the street. It's a lot bigger. So, Commissioner?
Yeah, if you go straight with a straight sales tax, you wonder how much you're gonna dilute the question when you put it on the ballot. It'd be so big that people will just vote no because they don't understand.
Glaze over, so to speak.
It is.
Yeah.
And a PSST was something we hadn't considered, but I think we can take a look at, and we might be able to adjust around to get there, so.
And I think the important thing to understand is going with the like a public safety tax. Certainly,
Yeah.
there's going to be advantages to that, but not going with that doesn't preclude you from getting money to
Correct.
the agencies. So, I mean,
Right.
it's just something you have to weigh. I mean, just because you decide to go with a general sales tax doesn't mean that you can't send some of the proceeds to that tax. I mean, certainly, we do the sheriff's office's budget. We can do an IGA with the fire protection district. But, I mean, those are just questions you have to weigh in light of public perception and what's going to be likely to be appealing to voters. I mean, certainly a general sales tax is going to have more flexibility for the county, but the disadvantage is it's not going to be as specific, and voters may not be as inclined in that direction. So it's a balance.
I'm sure we'll think of more. It's over with.
And I have one last question for you all, because the Montezuma County Hospital District is the only component of Montezuma County that actually has a sales tax. County General has no taxes, is what we're looking at this for now. Have you guys approached them to, I mean, looking at your call volume, and obviously I'm well aware of it, that most of your calls are going to be EMS and not fire related. Have you guys approached that board, the MCHD, as far as, hey, is there any way you can, or can they even legally, they may not be able to do it at all? I don't know. It's just a
Yeah,
question.
so I don't have the statute in front of me that pertains to the healthcare districts and their ability to raise a sales tax, but I did look over that statute. My recollection is there's specific things that they can use that tax money for. And so, you know, I don't want to completely speak out of turn because I don't have the statute right here, but my recollection is I don't think that's a possibility for them. I think that when the hospital district raises a sales tax, it's pretty specifically tailored for hospital needs. And I don't know about their ability to step outside that and conceivably like support the fire protection district. But my gut inclination is it might not be allowed.
If I remember-
And from a risk management level, if you're looking at two competing sales taxes, where one is for the hospital district and the fire district, and one is for the government, my feeling from the voters of Montezuma County is that only one of those will pass. And so if there were two competing initiatives, we may be more likely to lose ours. The other thing I would say to you two gentlemen is that if the commissioners go with this and they put it on the November ballot, you still got to write two budgets, one for if and one for if not, because you won't know until budget season is already in full swing.
Correct, yeah. The 2023 budget's going to be written, with basically just going forward as we currently are. And so, we'd have to adjust our belt even more.
Yeah.
And I guess the last question that I want to ask you all is that how much time and effort are you going to be willing to help us with this? Because I think the education component of it, I mean, we correct people in here almost weekly that think Montezuma County functions off of a sales tax, and we don't have any kind of a sales tax. So the lion's share of everything is put on the property owners. For everybody that's passing through this community, the property owners are paying for it, and the guys that are coming in and out are paying nothing for it.
Absolutely.
So the question to you all is, how much time and effort do you think you could commit to this? Because I think we have a huge education component to lift this, to make sure that people realize what we're even talking or considering. Because I think that, people don't realize the drug abuse and the drugs that come in and out of this community are.
No, it's got a cutting a wide swath through Montezuma County for sure. Not only the drugs, but just the lower income level, the fact that we've been dealing with quite the mess since March of 2020, right? And you start looking at a lot of the different behavioral health concerns that are out there and issues in that and compromises and that's influenced our call volume significantly because as we know, law enforcement has been asked to step back from a lot of those types of incidents. So now they're asking, fire and EMS personnel to start managing those people. And then if we find out that they're non-compliant, then we have to get law enforcement or, they spit on somebody or kick them or hit them or do whatever, which that happens. And so it's a revolving door for sure for a lot of folks. And we're hoping that through the community intervention program, we can make a little, a little dent on part of that. If we can just kind of stop it in its tracks and we don't see any additional increases, because we've had double digit increases in call volume for 2 years running now, single digit 9% the year before that, and from 2018 to 19, and so it's just unsustainable. And you say, well, what do you do? Cut some of the types of calls you respond on, and it's like, man, that's a risky deal, because the fact is we respond to a lot of down subject calls. Well, a number of those down subjects over the course of the year are people that have stopped breathing or their heart has stopped. And so, if you're waiting an extra 2 or 3 minutes, the chance of survival is slim to none. And especially if we're arriving within 2 to 3 minutes of that call being initiated, our folks can start CPR and utilize AEDs or 12 lead monitors. We have advanced EMTs, paramedics, et cetera, that work for us, not just EMT basics. So, and I say just, I mean, that's the EMT basics save paramedics. So there's an old saying out there.
Yeah. To say the least, all of our systems are being stretched to the max.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
across the board, social services is out of control. Health department is stretched. I mean, you look at our sheriff's office, our courts.
No, and
Obviously-
I truly believe that the sale, nobody wants a tax. I mean, I don't want a tax, but the fact is that seeing this every day, day in, day out, that a sales tax is absolutely the best way for us to go to help take care of some of these issues that we're confronted with, and quite frankly, that are going to become quite detrimental to the health and safety of our community, of our entire county. Lion's share of the problem goes on within, a couple miles of the city of Cortez, but I guarantee that nobody's immune from it. I had a discussion with the Pleasant View Fire Chief, and she's got the same same type of issues we have with behavioral health concerns and calls for that. And not to the numbers, but the percentages are the same. You know, there are 105 calls. They've got the same percentage of call volume, whether it's fires or fire alarms or EMS calls or whatever. The percentages are the same no matter what district you go to. It's just a different total number.
If I may, on the question of helping educate as well, we've been preparing for this for a couple months now, not only through social media stuff, but coming up with flyers. Our crews are obviously very vested in this, and they're willing to go door to door. When we've talked about doing that, we actually have a full-time employee she does our public education kind of stuff, and she would be dedicated to this as well, going out and working with Vicki and the other PIOs and doing the education part too. So I think we bring a lot to the education portion of getting the word out there.
And the boots on the ground would be our crews. At least some of them have told us, "Hey, we'll do it on the morning we come off shift. We'll go do that, and we'll canvass an area of town off duty." Obviously, you know, there's certain things we know that we can and can't do while we're on duty in regards to promoting, you know, a ballot question. But we're well aware of that and would follow the letter of the law to the T. But also, we've got a 35-person footprint that we can help put on, you know, providing a positive message for this.
And you know, just thinking off the top of my head, the folks here in Montezuma County are probably a lot more likely to receive one of your employees going door to door explaining a situation than one of our employees showing up at the door saying, "We're from the government, we're here to help."
And in the other fire district, I've had a brief conversation with a couple of the fire chiefs on this, but really didn't have beyond just a brief conversation. So I would assume, you know, that this would be all fire districts, if you will, because they all, you know, Dolores, Mancos, Lewis, and Pleasant View are covering areas of the county as well. So I would like to think that with that support, we could make an even bigger impact on talking to every single person in our county.
Okay. Well, we obviously have not decided yet whether or not we're even going to move forward with a ballot question. We do have our survey back. We're evaluating it. We're trying to figure out which way we should and shouldn't go.
Wish we'd have had this portion when we started our survey.
Well, it's almost changed, though. It's not
Yeah.
just a general tax. It would be a PSST, which then it's real specific. We can be real specific where, you know, this is going to fund X, Y, and Z and not. I think that's where most people get upside down, when it just goes into the general fund and then it's not specific, and then it can kind of, it goes anywhere or can go everywhere. But I think if we delineate specifically exactly what it's going to do, you know, I think that might be more palatable to most people.
And I think we've seen from the voters of Montezuma County and the school district initiatives to pass mill levies that they tend not to be inclined to pass a tax that isn't specified where it's going to go.
Well, and a mill levy is a totally different creature. I would never,
Correct.
as long as I'm sitting here, impose a mill levy increase on any of
No.
our people, because we're already paying the lion's share of everything, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
In my mind, I mean, we're paying for everybody that comes into this community and has no property ownership at all. However, they're going to go down and buy a mill, or, I mean,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So I definitely understand, you know, the difference between the two, and we'll wrestle with that.
Joe tourist that has a wreck or has a heart attack in a restaurant somewhere, they get a free ride of your services.
Absolutely. Car fire, whatever it might be. I mean, it's, and if there's anything we can do to help you out, you know, next several weeks when, you know, you're discussing it, I'm available anytime to answer any additional questions. And I do appreciate the opportunity, though, to present to you today. And if that's it, I'm finished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
guys.
very
Thank
much
you
for your
very
time.
much.
We appreciate it.
Have a great day. Okay, next we have our rodeo grant discussion. Mr. Mcguire, and it looks like you have an entourage of people with you. You guys can all come up and sit at the desk also, just,
And Justin, if enough of them sit down, you may need to grab the other microphone.
Yeah.
So far, it looks like you don't have a lot of company there. Got it.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So that's just kind of a little handout from the U Mountain Rodeo on kind of their history and what they're wanting to do as far as a proposed project.
Justin, you'll have to move that.
Sorry.
Sir. Can
you hear me?
For you two that are speaking, for everybody else out there that's viewing us, you kind of got to get it, you know,
Close.
as close as you possibly can.
Okay. So there's a grant available from T-Mobile, and from the way that we understand it is they'd like this to go to rodeo functions. So I've been communicating with the Ute Mountain Rodeo, and they've kind of been working on this, and we thought it was the best idea for them to try to get this grant through their committee, and give us the best, you know, chance to actually get this money. And what we're looking at is $50,000. Now with that $50,000, you know, there's a lot of things that we're looking at trying to improve out there at the fairgrounds, but at the moment, the best logical thing between us and the rodeo committee would be to try to expand our parking lot some. And the reason for expanding the parking lot would be this rodeo has been growing, you know, substantially from where it has been several years ago. And just the last few years, they've got bigger and bigger, and last year they actually sold out, I believe, one day of the rodeo completely. So their traffic in and out of this has been tremendous. With that being said, they always do a carnival at the same time, so that big area on the west side of the grandstands, there's always a carnival out there, plus they're trying to, you know, deviate all the parking for trailers, you know, just for general people wanting to go to the carnival, things like that. So what we were thinking about doing was trying to expand some of that west parking lot to kind of open it up more and alleviate some of that traffic control. Also kind of help with, you know, safety and things like that. So it puts people, you know, a little bit more spread out. What we wanted to do was try to go in there and grade a lot of that ground with your guys' support, if possible. But looking at a lot of that terrain, it was going to, you know, take quite a bit of dirt work for us to try to do anything. So what we have thought is kind of where we got that red square, if you will, if you look at that, is to maybe expand our parking lot to that area and kind of go in there and do a little bit of dirt work, because that's already almost just ready to go. It's almost right at grade. There's a little bit of slope to it there on that northern end, but I don't think it would be anything that we would have to do a lot of work to get done, and then have gravel brought in so we can make that a lot bigger. And then that gives them an opportunity to put horse trailers and parking like that over there. The other thought was, for the fair, when it comes in, maybe we could utilize that area more for trailer parking for them, as well as the high school rodeo. So this was something that we were trying to look at for not just the Ute Mountain Rodeo, but for other events that we're running out there. So what we're here today is to show you what we would like to do and kind of explain the grant a little bit and see if you guys are willing to support us with this and allow us to move on. And if we get the 50,000, kind of invest that into just gravel and a little bit of work that we need to do to expand that amount. And then on top of that, since it is a grant going to the Ute Mountain Rodeo, whether or not we would be willing to do an in-kind trade with them for some of these funds or all the funds.
So when you say an in-kind trade, you're talking about crediting their account?
Correct.
Okay. And then of the work that would need to be done to this parking lot, how much of that would the grant cover, and would there be any outstanding balance on that?
So initially we were wanting to do that whole part, and that's kind of where it was like, well, this is going to cost a substantial amount of money. So that's why we've kind of narrowed it down to this, because we could take that whole 50,000 and should be able to cover everything we want to do in this little area. That way we don't have to ask you guys for any additional funds. We don't have to try to find additional funds. It would just be the grant money going to this project.
So, talking about costs, first of all, how many square feet is this parking lot? How big is it? Because then that's going to give the math to, I mean, then what are you talking about as far as gravel? Are you talking about 4 inches, 6 inches? What are you guys looking at?
So initially we were looking at around 6 inches of gravel, and I can't remember the square footage of that exactly off the top of my head, but that's about half of what we were trying to estimate originally. In our original estimates, we needed about 200 truckloads of gravel. So on this one, we're looking at, somewhere around 100 truckloads. And it might not even be that much in this area. And then that's with most of the dirt work being done by either us at the fairgrounds, or if I could get the help of the road department a little bit.
So as far as the dirt work, that, if I remember right, that slopes from the south to the north, right? Kind of there in that area?
Yeah, so if
Or
you
is
look...
it almost relatively flat?
Yeah, it's relatively flat. So if you look at the round pin right there,
Yep.
and everything that kind of looks like on the south end of that round pin and over to the west, that's all flat. And then kind of halfway in the middle of that square, that's where it does start to gradually slope down to the drainage that kind of
Yep.
runs between the parking lot and that area. But it's not drastic.
So how much dirt work do you anticipate then? Because if that's relatively flat now, I mean, other than shaving off the
Correct.
the
We
root,
would,
there's-
we'd have to do
There's not
some...
going to be a lot there.
There shouldn't be. And that's kind of why we were we were looking at this area.
I guess for me, I need to see a cost breakdown.
'Kay.
What is going to be the dirt work portion? That's kind of what you're asking us. What is that cost? What is the gravel cost? And the whole project? And what really is the square footage? I think it's great. Thank you guys for going out and looking at the grant. But, I mean, it's hard for us just to say, yeah, we're going to, without any kind of a cost estimate, what are we looking at?
In the picture here, Commissioner, just based on the scale on the map, assuming it's correct, it's roughly 400 square feet.
Which is pretty small. It's
That's
gotta be
pretty
bigger than that.
small.
You sure?
400 square feet is,
I think you're missing a zero.
that's not as big as this room.
Yeah, it's got
Probably
to be
2,000
bigger
square
than
feet. So,
So-
I guess,
I don't
What I
have
have
a
it
measurement.
Commissioner, is I have it at 95 loads, $9.12. It would be $21,660 of gravel. And with the trucking, I have it at 95 loads at $20,900 of trucking, giving us a total of $42,560, leaving us a remaining balance of $7,424 to use for any equipment.
so what kind of trucks? Is that a belly dump? Okay.
And then most of the dirt work would be either in-house or road department helping it out on. So we wouldn't be looking at really any costs in those. It'd just be our fuel costs through the county.
Well, Still gotta pay the road
we still
department
have
to
to-
help out.
Right. So,
Do we mine the gravel there, or do we haul it in?
Yeah, I imagine we'd have to haul it in.
okay. If you could, Justin, then get the breakdown, I mean, I'm sure for the grant, it probably asks for the actual square footage and what you're gonna
Yeah.
put on there, and that really shows for us, because really, I mean, I think with the blade you have out there, you could probably do that relatively simple right now, is take off that.
Exactly.
I mean, you're talking 6 inches of material, move it, and you're almost ready for gravel at that point in time, other than then applying the gravel as it's brought in. So I'd like to see it broken down a little bit more specific as to what it's paying, and thank you for the numbers for the product and the transportation of it.
Okay.
But I think from what I'm hearing from your numbers, that you basically have it covered. We're talking pretty minimal as far as dirt work and then gravel work with a blade to apply it.
Or to keep the costs to whatever it is that we can get from the grant. We could size that however we need to. We could shrink that parking lot to whatever will accommodate that 50 grand.
Sure.
And that's one thing with mobile, is they want something that's shovel ready. And that's what's so appealing about the parking lot, is we could do
Right.
this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, it's still a grant, we have to apply for it and be granted the grant.
Successful, right. Doesn't mean you're going to get it.
There's no, we don't
So I think the question that was emailed to us is, number one, do we support it, and would we sign
Yeah, if we were to do like a letter of support,
a
would
letter
you
of
guys be
support?
willing
Which
to?
I think for me, we can't make decisions today because we're in a workshop, but we can obviously put it on unfinished business for tomorrow. I don't, as soon as we see the cost, because everybody's going to ask us is, well, how much did that cost? First question we always get asked is, what did you spend on it? And that's a fair question. So we should be able to answer that. So, I mean, initially, from what I see here, there's going to be minimal cost as far as application and the minimal dirt work for removing it. But until we can really show the cost, it's hard to say yes or no. I know where I'm leaning, but again, we can't make decisions right now until we have it too.
It really is an underutilized piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
That has-
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, it would really enhance
Yep.
the area. I mean, it makes total sense to put it where it is.
I-
And enhance that unused piece of ground. And eventually, maybe we can expand to the west even a little more. But
Yep.
right now,
That little area right there, just to the northwest of the circle, it's not in the red, would you want to include that? I mean, it's kind of left out there like a sore thumb.
I think
Yeah.
you probably would
Yeah.
almost include
Yeah.
it. Because they use that little round pin during the rodeos
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Mhm.
That's constantly utilized
And
from
there
what
is-
I've seen.
People park there now anyway, as long as the ground's, it's dry, people will park their trailers out there now. But obviously, especially during fair time, it seems like we always get that big rain, into July to where you can't really utilize it. But if we had the gravel there, obviously we could. And another thing, just from the safety aspect of it, because I do believe there is one in the sense that it gets so congested out there. If you guys have been out at the rodeo and you've seen the line of traffic
Oh,
coming
yeah.
in and out of there, but people trying to find a spot to park,
Yeah.
to where having that much additional spot, I think could definitely alleviate a lot of that congestion.
And I agree, and it's a great spot for it. I mean, and it's close to that round pin that, the people that are participating in the rodeo have access to that, and the trailers,
and the ropings and the jackpot barrel
Yeah.
racing and.
where they can get on that backside where they
Mhm.
unload their
Anybody who
animals.
utilizes that outdoor arena uses that round pin.
So I think, Justin, I mean, obviously, thank you guys again. I do appreciate it. It shows that you guys are also committed to making that fairgrounds better, and you're willing to put in the work and effort to do it. I appreciate that. So Justin, if you just get that cost breakdown for us of
Okay.
you know, of
Yeah.
the dirt work and the application of what we're gonna have to do at that point in time. I think you kind of already have the transportation and the material. Those
Yeah.
are really the only four components that we're looking at.
I think if you put those numbers together with, if you actually do an actual size, get your square footage of where you're at, we can put the numbers together.
Yep. And that's why I asked, what is the square
Yeah,
footage?
it's
'Cause
about 4,000. You're right.
It's not 4,000.
40.
I think you're much bigger than that. You're closer to an acre. You're about 42,000 square feet.
42,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just from me viewing it, it's not 400.
No, it's way bigger than 400.
Maybe 400 right there in that little circle.
So, again, we can put this for unfinished business tomorrow as far as specifically signing the letter, because we can make that decision tomorrow, so that you can
Proceed.
provide your application.
We're ready to go with the grant, we just need your approval first.
Okay.
Okay.
We can get it submitted and then see if we get it.
Do you have a letter that's already formulated that you would like us to sign, or?
No.
Okay, so we'll formulate that for you, and we'll put it under unfinished business tomorrow. Okay,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
anything else?
I think that's it, unless you guys got anything.
No, thank you guys.
All right, thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
See ya.
See you later.
Have a great day.
Precinct maps.
Okay, next on our agenda to discuss today, we have the precinct boundary adjustments. Ms. Purcell, you're on the opposite side of the table today. That's a little unusual, but come on down with Doug and Miranda, right?
So, you have to forgive me, I'm a little rummy, worked through the weekend and I'm seeing a little cross-eyed. But Doug has been working on the precinct rebounding. Is that a word, rebounding?
It is now.
Redistricting.
Redistricting precincts. This is our proposed map. As you can see, we have proposing a whole new precinct, Precinct 12. What Doug has worked on is to keep all these lines in adjustment or in line with other districts and other splits and boundaries. What we've tried to do is create something that is not going to be outdated within the next year, that it's going to last us a while. As you know, we're required to keep our precincts below 2,000. And this will give us some room to grow in all those precincts. I'm going to let Doug explain to you where he's done his magic.
Because it's kind of hard to see that map, but precinct 12 is what we're formulating, correct, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, all the boundaries changed to some degree or another, starting off with the fact that we now have a state legislative district, a state house district that runs our community that we have to line things to. So the general arrangement of the districts were kept similar as far as, District 7 is south of Cortez, District 5 is east Cortez, et cetera. So we tried to keep that general layout the same, but most of the boundaries did change to some degree or another. And this is what we presented to the commission last Tuesday and left it open for review if we have any comments. We haven't made any changes to it since we presented it last Tuesday, and it was put on our county website available for review. That's really where you can dig down into it, and you can see where the proposed boundaries lie. Of course, we can't see that level of detail on this screen. Ian did prepare a resolution. I guess the one question I have is what resolution number we're thinking about going with for tomorrow.
It's probably going to end up being number 3-2022,
Okay.
because we are going to have a budget amendment from County General and one from Social Services as well.
Okay.
So it'll probably be 3-2022.
Okay.
So when we talked to you guys the other day, when we talked to you last Tuesday, there were some areas with the House District that we were trying to get fixed but when we had that conversation with the state, it was too broad of an area for them to make any kind of adjustment to it. So we are not going to be able to do any kind of corrections to that. And it will stay the way it was. Most of it's down there on County Road G, where the House District comes like above County Road G, and then it goes below County Road G, and it comes above. So it's quite a combination of a mess down there. That's all I can say.
Yeah, there, when we met with the state learning process, when we met with the state official, essentially they were really where the state Supreme Court's going to make some of those adjustments is really where it's almost impossible for an elections official to determine which district a home is actually in, which is not the case in these splits that we're talking about, because the home, the residence is clearly in an area. But the way it was sent out was technical corrections if you have the legislative districts that split parcels, which we do, but it doesn't cause issues.
So in that case, you don't put the husband in one precinct and the wife in the other?
Sometimes that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Not recommended.
That's something that hopefully the state can improve their review process when they're doing this versus asking for the counties to try and address this at the end of the process. It's really on the state, but we're not gonna. There's nothing we can change about that right now. So.
And this goes until the next census, right? So this is good for a decade, and we're not supposed to exceed 2,000.
So if we had any kind of a precinct that in between now and that census exceed 2,000, then we would have to make an adjustment within what we've already got created.
Because right now it shows that precinct number 2 is at almost 2,500.
That's the current boundaries, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's already oversized.
Way over, yeah.
Way over. Is 1911 really going to give us enough latitude for
We're just not gonna let anybody move in there.
growth? I mean, I like the number down below, like you said, 1793 is kind of what you're targeting for that new 12 district. Just a question, I think, you know, the rest are at 16, 17, 17, 16, 17, 14. Is that too high? Do you think it's going to make it for a decade?
You were talking about that area being, and its growth of last time.
Well, we can make adjustments now. Like Kim mentioned, we can make adjustments later as well. I think there was a voter precinct adjustment in 2008, like you mentioned, which is definitely not a census year, and so they can be made at any time. We could certainly move from some areas and decrease that 1911 slightly and kind of proactively. We can also tackle it as we need to as well. There's options there. Not knowing exactly where people are going to move into, I see that the growth in what the new precinct 12 is and the surrounding precinct 5, my assumption is that there's going to be greater growth in those areas than in precinct 2. So
Okay.
I think it would be a little bit presumptuous to make those adjustments now.
And it's just a question. I was just
Yeah.
looking at the numbers. When I looked at the current boundary and then where we're putting it, it looks like it's grown well, even where it sits right now, other than District 7, well,
So Shaq, can you go back to the map?
District 11 is huge.
So the bright green part is District 2,
Yep.
or Precinct 2. And as you can tell, a lot of that is
Forest Service.
Forest Service land. So maybe not as much growth in there as you're going to have in the other two precincts.
Right. So, okay, it
Lo-
was just
a
a
lot of growth
question. I mean,
outside of Mancos. and-
I guess if we have to adjust,
Yeah.
well, one district adjusts one or two others, it's just going to happen.
The kind of the way it landed there right now is that's not my ideal number. However, it does align with other voter precincts, which
Yep.
for right now, it lessens the burden on creating additional splits for the elections office, knowing that we can do that later and they won't have a whole new map to adopt later. It would just be some small adjustments between
Yeah.
5, 2, and 12.
Got it.
Yeah, we doubled the population base in precinct 1 and still quite a ways off.
Yeah. Yep. But, yeah.
Okay.
So that's all we have. This is, I guess we'll take comments.
I think you have, did you gentlemen want to make comment?
I want to make
Are they
Well, we-
allowed to do
We
that?
typically don't, but I will today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys have something that you want to say, we typically don't in our workshops have public comment, but
and I appreciate that.
you can go ahead. We've got plenty of time. We're doing good today.
So just so you know, I have not received any kind of written comment
Nor have I.
or email comment from the public
And
since this,
I
okay. I
have
just wanted
received
you to know
nothing.
that I would
either.
share that if I did receive it.
Okay.
Right, so, can you hear me? Thank you. Alan Mays, 21693 County Road 21, Lewis. And so my precinct is changing, and it is property, not so much in the way of population, as you saw with those numbers, that those two, Precinct 1 and Precinct 3 changes. But one of the comments that I wanted to make more is with Precinct 12 and Precinct 2, one of the comments that I heard was that we were trying to keep school districts whole, and I'm not sure if that portion of Precinct 12 shows a little bit of Dolores School District in it, so that will complicate, and I don't say complicate, it's just going to be work for the elections office to deal with, but so that was something that I saw in the proposed map that I wanted to comment on. And then the other is communities, and that's the biggest thing that I am concerned with changes to precincts, is you do change communities. My precinct, Precinct 3, Lewis community, we've always taken that pretty seriously, that we live in a community and we live there as you know, families maybe have changed a little bit, but we are generational out there, and so when these things change, it impacts that little community a little bit more. So that's just one more thing that I was wanting to throw out there, that when we do these things, it does impact more than just a boundary line. So with that said too, then, we need to get this information, if it is adopted, we've got a crunch time. We're looking at March 1st for precinct caucuses, and so basically we've got 29 days to, well, at the end of January, because you'll adopt this at the end of January, then we have the month of February to educate the community that you're going to be going to another precinct, and a lot of people don't pay attention to that, and so it's going to be a job that's going to be required to say, you're not going to go to Lewis Areola this March 1st, you're going to be going to Pleasant View Fire Department, and a lot of folks aren't going to be paying attention to that. They'll show up at their old precinct caucus point, and do they have enough time, because it starts promptly at 7 o'clock in the evening, will they have enough time to drive from the precinct they showed up at? Anyway, I wish we could have had more time to present this to the public, I guess is my point. So, anyway, those are comments.
We wish we had more time to prepare ourselves for the changes that were.
Anyway, I thank you for.
Our timing is not up.
And I agree with that, Alan. It seems like everything that we get anymore is
Just adds to the confusion of everything
It's like
else going on.
hurry, 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 and it's like, okay. But I think we're just gonna have to do a good job within ourselves, within the two major parties.
Yes.
To make sure that we get this information out there. Obviously, as a county, we'll do all of our work that we can to get it out there, but here again, this is by statute, it's something that we have to do.
Right, and we will adjust. That's, yeah, we will.
We will.
So anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Did you have anything that you got?
Yeah, those are good points that Mr. Mays brought up. Just as far as the school district boundaries and the on this map, which won't be on the final voter precinct map, we do have the school district shown in that light yellow color, and we had to grab some of that. We couldn't follow the school districts exactly in that precinct 212 split. Otherwise, it would have really put the Dolores School District way over that amount, which would have been precinct 2. So we had to grab some out of precinct 12. Precinct 5, however, is wholly within the RA1 school district, and as well 2, 12, and 11 are Dolores and Memphis school districts, and then the splits, just to go over this, in precinct 1, 3, and 4 in the northwest part of the county, pretty much aligned to cemetery districts. Not that you want to necessarily base your sense of community on cemetery districts, but
And the House District. And the House District.
and the House district.
Senate districts and the.
Which we have 2 House districts now. So go ahead, Mr. Pettit.
Fred Pettit, Yellow Jacket, 15045, County Road X, Precinct 1 co-chair. This is just mandated by the state,
The precinct,
the change?
it's a statute. It's a state statute.
Okay.
So every 10 years, and help me out if I misspeak here, but every 10 years when we do the census, there's realignment of, obviously, which we just experienced, House districts, Senate districts, so on and so forth. Along with that also comes a realignment of how much is your population grown, and if you have to stay below that 2,000 number, you can see that some of them are way over, so we have to move those so that we have less than 2,000 per precinct. So yeah, it is by statute.
Well, we all understand that it's, that pretty much every place is growing. And we're not growing quite as bad as some of the other areas. Change for change itself is not good. Does it have to be now? Can it be changed for the next election cycle? Because like Alan said, you only got 30 days to notify people, and people don't change very easily.
We've noticed.
So it is by statute that we're required to do this at this
Yes,
time.
So with that said, then it's got to be done, and you may not like it.
Sir, it appears that your mic's off. Could you turn it on?
I don't think,
The power button.
here's the realization is, we've been talking
There you
about
go.
redistricting now for almost a full year. All of us. And we've talked about it consistently, starting with CD3 to our House district, to our Senate district, and which then tails down to us for the county. So to say that we only have, that nobody's aware of it, I would say, gosh, I hope that people are aware of it because of what just happened to us in the House district, but
So
The problem is they couldn't start theirs until the House or till the state finished
Correct.
theirs.
Right,
the
and
last
that
one.
was postponed because of issues with COVID.
Right.
Right.
We're the
And
last
census-
ones
The
that are-
census data was
And the
late.
census, yeah, the census
Getting
data
it.
was late, and then the redistricting committee was late, and we didn't get the information until the end of the year.
Right.
So-
So we are,
So I'm not that far behind the curveball then.
no, we're behind because of all the, everything that was just stated, but we've been talking about redistricting now for almost a year. So I hope everybody realizes that it was coming, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a big effort for all of us to really educate the people to say, look, this is
Yeah, so
This is what
something
we
else
have to
that's
do.
normally done at this time is the commissioner redistricting. Usually it's done at the same time, but that was postponed until next year because of the issues that we've had. So next year, we will be doing this again for redistricting for just the commissioner districts.
So can it all be done then?
No, we are
No.
required by statute to do it
Okay.
this time.
Yeah. The state, the state sent us a letter that said, hey, we're done with our legislative districts. Now you got, and that was in probably December 1st or so. And they said, all right, you have until January 31st to submit your voter precincts.
Yeah.
Boom.
So
And
it's 30 days.
Which I understand your rub. They were able to put it off, but we're not. I totally hear what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Okay. Well,
But I don't think in this community, I don't think we're gonna have a tough task. I really don't.
well, no, it doesn't look like it, as far as the boundaries goes, it enlarges precinct 1 by almost double.
Yep.
But area-wise, it covers up a third of the county.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if it is what it is, and we just have to deal with it. We may not like it, but it is what it is.
And I would just advise the precinct chairs from all the parties to plan on a late start to your first meetings.
Well, but that's set up by state statute too.
Yeah, well, just understand that some of your participants are going to be late.
Okay, yeah, but you are absolutely
So
correct.
we'll do some PSAs. I think we have that ability to do some PSAs. We'll get it on our website as soon as we approve it, and we'll have our PIO officer get some information out there as soon as possible, because we realize that we're going to have to educate both parties of what this precinct now is doing. So it affects everybody in this community.
So do you have a map that I can have?
yeah, you can have this one right here. And that's what
There you go.
we'll have, once it's approved, we'll update our official map on the website. That map is a little bit of a working map because it shows some additional information on there, like school districts, which won't be part of the official map, but the boundaries are the same.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot.
And I just hope the parties understand that it's going to take us a while to make all these adjustments to these precincts. So when we do your voter, it's going to take us a while to get your voter list to us.
Okay,
But
so-
once we get it completed, we're going to get you the voter list as well as updated maps.
Okay,
So it's just
So
going to take us a
I
bit.
think for us as commissioners, we might set up a special meeting with the parties and you all, so that everybody is aware and they know, and it would be specifically just for this, and we could do it relatively quickly. We can do it in a workshop, have both major parties here, and that way, the information
that
is
sounds
at
like
least
an
to
excellent
all
idea.
12 of the precinct chairs and co-chairs. That would probably be good on our part, so.
Something to add for Thursday night.
Precinct co-chairs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They will soon.
yeah. But they couldn't ask them to be precinct chairs until we actually have the precinct set up.
yeah, but
Correct.
okay, yeah, I see but you still have to go by the old, what's already established. You can't throw those folks out to have a comment anyway.
No, this is
Yeah.
just to inform them that
That's
the
right.
new district, or the new precinct is being formed, and look at the boundary lines, because boundaries obviously have changed or moved, and be aware of what precinct you're in.
And Doug, is there any way to, like, we can search an address on GIS? Is there a way to have it interactive where someone can search their address and they'll know what precinct they're in?
Yeah, I mean, that should already be on the GIS as a function. You have to
Right.
turn on one of the layers. It's not on by default, but on the county interactive GIS site. You can type in your address and you can turn that voter precinct layer on, no different than the other district layers that you have, and determine that.
Then also, once this has been approved and we've got the files sent to the state, there's a place at the state where you can review your voter registration, and there too, it would tell you what precinct you're in. But again, that's going to take us a while to get those files to the state once they've been approved.
And you said we have until the 31st, right? That was the date?
That's next Monday.
That's
Next Monday.
Monday. So we could have a workshop with them on Monday.
No, you guys have to, the only opportunity you have to approve it is Tuesday. So you could have a workshop explaining it, but the only opportunity you have to approve it is tomorrow.
So my conundrum that Kim has brought in is if we change these voter precincts and districts with picking a new commissioner, how does that affect that?
Does that affect you,
Because does
Al?
that change,
It does not change the,
because precinct 12 is not?
but it doesn't change the commissioner districts.
Okay.
And you are
Okay.
countywide,
So
so
tomorrow wouldn't
doesn't make
wouldn't
any
hinder
difference
anything.
whatsoever.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Clear as mud?
Are we all confused?
Yes.
No?
Have been for a
Clear
year.
as mud?
We are in
Sorry,
the,
you're gonna have to,
Clear as mud?
Yeah.
absolutely.
We
Good.
are in the state of confusion.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. Okay, last but not least, we have
Mr. Jarman,
Mr. McLaren and Mr. Jarman.
pardon me.
Looks like we're going to be discussing.
Yeah.
We could
Waste
do it without
haulers.
saying a name. We could do it without saying the name. Okay.
So, just to give you guys an overview of what we're dealing with, we've got a trash company here that's using our landfill. They're about they're over $40,000 delinquent on their trash bill. I sent them a letter on December 6th of 2022, saying pay up.
December 6th of 2021.
2021, I'm sorry. Mel had been in correspondence with them before that. I got an email from the owner of the trash company on December 22nd. Said he was waiting on a loan and he'd be able to pay the account in full by the middle of January. Didn't hear from him, made several calls last week, sent another email, didn't hear from him. Actually, during this workshop, I got an email from him, 209, said he was still waiting on the loan and that as soon as it came through, it would be paid. He didn't expect it would take that long. So I think the situation we're in at this point, he's been paying load by load as the trucks go in, is my understanding from Mr. Jarman. But we still have this outstanding bill. This is not the first time that we've gotten a large delinquency. And so, I guess at this point, we just need to figure out how we want to move forward. I think that really the two options there's three options at this point. We can wait longer for the bill to be paid. We can simply close off the landfill to further loads until the bill's paid, or we can go to court. I certainly would advise closing off the landfill before we go to court, because to keep the landfill open and file a court action, it kind of undercuts what we're doing.
I think if he's communicating with you, he obviously did today,
Yep.
that would be the very last option, in my opinion. We are at the middle of the month. My concern here is how many customers is this going to affect within the county, which are paying their bill, and then you're saying just cut them off to the landfill?
That's certainly an option, and really, it comes down to, we've got this outstanding balance,
Yeah.
Right.
and, at some point, we've got to get it paid.
Absolutely.
And I know
So-
that that's in Mel's interest too, and so,
How long has this been going on, Mel? Since September 30th?
It's, we got the statements here, it goes back quite a while, into last year. But one of the options, Rachel and I discussed it quite extensively, is they're coming in, they're paying for every load they're bringing in
right now?
right now,
Okay.
okay? I don't see why they couldn't pay a little bit more on each time they come in to start bringing this balance down.
So we're not going to disrupt their customer service if they're paying for every load coming in. So I guess if it's not paid in full by the end of this month, which gives them just a little bit more
week?
time.
That's a week.
No, it's not much time, but it's way beyond time, that then
I'd recommend 30 days and then cut them off.
well, it's already been
Yeah, I know.
a
but
year.
He's waiting for the outcome of the loan.
I'll let you guys make the
But
call.
I mean, how long have you been waiting for the loan?
Well, I'm not willing to do that. I think he has a week, he has till the end of the month. Just my opinion.
This is the email that I sent to the dates.
So he's been a cash only since October. Yeah. To rack up this $40,000.
Since 2020.
And I guess that's why I'm not, he's already had a year. I mean, he can continue to come in and pay for his loads as he's coming forward, but at the end of the month, he's gotta pay his landfill.
True. I don't want to put
Yeah.
a couple of people out of work either.
Well, trust
But
me,
it's not
I'm-
my call.
What's your recommendation?
I would like, well, number one, I want him to pay the bill, but I would like for him to at least make an effort on every time a truck comes in to pay down on this balance until he gets this paid in full. And I mean a substantial amount.
Well, so here's what I'll say. We can look at working out a payment plan, but this has not been easy communication to keep open.
No, we've
There's
asked
long
him to do
delays.
that.
We've asked. I mean, I made several calls last week. I don't know the circumstances,
Right.
but I can tell you that I sent an email last week. I made several calls last week that went to voicemail. Made another call today, and then finally got an email 15 minutes ago. But it's not easy
It's not.
to pin it down.
So I don't have anybody in the business that I do business with. If we don't pay our bills, we don't do business
Exactly.
with them. It's cut off. You have 30 days and you're done. And I think that's pretty customary to be able to be doing business. Otherwise, you might rethink what you're doing. So not our area of how they're running their business. I just think we have a call to make. And I think for me, if this has been going on this long, we almost shame on us for letting it go this long.
I wonder if we ought to split the difference. I mean, Commissioner Lindsay suggested to the end of February or 30 days. I wonder if we go to the middle of February. I mean, it's not going to hinder our ability to collect this bill in the event of a court action. We did get the correspondence saying that they are waiting on a loan. I mean, that would in essence give them 3 weeks from today to get everything figured out with the loan and get it cleared up.
The other thing I want the commission to consider is the precedent that we set for the 3 other waste haulers.
And that's,
Because if we had 3 other waste haulers that were a year in the rear, the landfill'd be in trouble financially.
and I guess that's where I'm headed, is I'm not willing, it just doesn't make sense to me. If we've already been dealing with this for this long, shame on us, because we should have taken action much sooner. Here's where we're gonna differ. Here's where we need the third guy, because I'm gonna stay with this, January 31st. I'm not gonna waver on that.
If it was,
Sorry.
if it was an electric bill, you'd be sitting there in the dark.
That's a fact.
Or a water bill, or
Yeah.
a
That's
sanitation bill. So why are we're already
Right.
way lenient, in my opinion. I mean, I'm
We
looking at
have
this
been very
documentation now.
lenient with this.
I mean,
I'll concede, end of the month.
Fine with me.
I'll get a letter out today.
And I hate to have to do this, guys, but
I
we
do
got to
too.
be fair to everybody else out there that's doing it the right way. We can't.
That's right. This is a business. It's no different than yours or somebody else's.
Correct. You're running a business. That's a business, and we have to run it to where we're paid for the services that are provided.
Correct.
So that will have to go under unfinished business tomorrow also, so that we can actually make a decision. But that's, I can tell you where I'm, you already know where I'm at.
Okay.
All right?
You CC me on the email? Yeah, I will. Thank you, sir.
With that, we have come to the end of our workshop for the 24th of January. Thank you all for attending, in person and in YouTube. Have a great day.